Thank y'all for being here. Productive fall camp and leads us into game one, right? And it seems like it's a long time coming. Look forward to kicking off the 130th season of Mountaineer football with the return of the Backyard Brawl Thursday night. Talk about Pitt for a second. ACC champs, 11-3. Coach Narduzzi's done a really good job of building that program. I think just talking about them in the three phases of the game, special teams, their coordinator, Andre Powell, they've done a really nice job there over a consistent period of time of being just really solid on special teams. They've got a new punter, a new long snapper, really athletic, aggressive. I thought that was a big piece of their championship team last year was on special teams. Offensively, a new coordinator and Coach Signetti, they're going to be multiple. He did a really good job, I thought, at BC the last couple of years. And long-time play caller, he's not going to be rattled. And he's done this at the NFL level and at the collegiate level for a long time. They've got talented skill guys across the board. I think when you watch them, you know, obviously Slow is going to start at quarterback, and he's accurate. He's done a nice job at USC the 2 years he started there. But when you look at their skill guys, I think sometimes as much made about what they lost, but their receivers, that's a really good group. Two transfer starters and Bubba Means, who very familiar with, who recruited him really hard at Troy. Thought we had a chance to get him until Tennessee took him late there. And then Mumfield, you know, who had a great freshman season at Akron. And then Jared Wayne, who's really consistent. You know, he's got a long line of work there at Pitt. Made a bunch of 50-50 balls. Means can really run, and then Mumfield is one of the better route runners you're going to see at that age. So, and then running back by committee, those guys I thought were productive last year. 3 of them over 500 yards. I think number 2, when he gets an open field, can really hit some home runs. And the tight end Bartholomew was a freshman All-American. So they've got weapons offensively. Got a veteran offensive line. I think one of the top 5 returning as far as games started in the country. Defensively, to me, that's the staple of their program. They make it really difficult to run the football. Their D-line's very talented. I think if you look at them, Cansey is really, they do a nice job moving him around. His first step, he's really tough. You know, I think the other inside guy, Green, is a nice player that maybe gets overlooked some. I think he's done a really nice job. They're good on the edges. Valdana is, I think his length to the field makes it really difficult. He gets his hands on a bunch of balls, and he can rush the passer. The Hayes kid, who's from the Pittsburgh area, is a really good pass rusher. And then Alexander plays really hard at the other end. And then at linebacker, the Dennis, he'll be as good as any linebacker will play this year. And then they've got 2 safeties returning. So a lot of veteran presence over there, really good NFL-type talent on the defensive side. And so just kind of wrapping it up, tough opener. We'll need to be ready. We will be ready. A lot of respect for that program, what they've done. And so I think y'all are getting a depth chart there. It looks like Miney's giving that out. But JT earned the right to start. He'll be our starting quarterback. And really decision making is kind of what won that job for him. He's full trust, player, staff. Have a lot of confidence in him and how he's going to perform in the opener. So with that, I'll take questions.
So you waited a little while to release the depth chart. Just your thoughts behind it, how you let the competition play out, and start with the quarterback position.
Yeah, so, you know, the depth chart, and this is what I tell our players too, is, you know, outside of quarterback and maybe a specialist, those are the only positions where just one guy plays. So sometimes who starts doesn't matter as much as who finishes, and so we're going to play a large number of bodies in the opener here. But the quarterback competition, it went on for first 2 weeks of camp, and it came down. You look at all, you know, scoring drives, completion percentage, decision making, those things, and we really went. All 4 of the guys had equal opportunity, and over the course of those a little over 2 weeks and 2 scrimmages, it was clear that JT had earned the right, and the battle for the backup is ongoing. I'll say this, and I said this the other day, is feel really positive about the future of that position. I like the young guys we have, and we're doing some things that are really keen on their development. So, any other position, Greg, in particular?
I mean, stick with quarterback receiver. So what do you see out of JT, the positives, and maybe things sort of unknown heading into an opener?
Well, I think there's a lot of unknowns going into opener. I think probably on both sides of the ball. For JT, it's going to be his first game here. The positive is this is, I think, his 17th or 18th start at the Power 5 level, so this isn't something that's new for him. He's played in big games, so I don't think the atmosphere is going to rattle him. He's played these types of games before. You know, as far as things he does well, he's really accurate with the football. He's throwing the ball downfield at a high completion percentage during camp. He does a really good job from a run pass. Any type of decision he has to make as far as that, he's been really good. So those are some things with the quarterback.
Neal, just on the determining factors for you, relative to what you want to see, like attitude or of the offense, something that he did that was, distinguishing himself from the other guys.
Yeah, I don't know, not from an attitude. I like those four. I like the makeup of all four of those kids. The one thing about JT is he's really even keel. He doesn't get too high or too low. Not rattled easily. I think that was, one kind of series of plays. He had a turnover early on in one scrimmage, and then recovered and played really good football. He didn't allow one mistake or one bit of bad luck to really influence how he went about the next play. I thought that showed maturity. And he's also, he's been through it, more so than some of those other guys.
Kind of going on with that, I don't know if the quarterback's record as a starter is very significant, like that's not stat in touchdowns or anything like that.
Yeah.
Significant that he does have kind of a history of winning.
I think,
A long time, I think.
yeah, I think it matters. It's kind of like starting pitchers in baseball, right? They've kind of lost some of their significance, but you're still looking at their win-loss record. And he's been successful. He's been on some good teams too. I think that's important to note. But he has been successful. And the fact that he's played in big games, I think, helps too. I think that's part of, if you look at his career, he's had some highs, really is some really high highs, and he's had some really low lows, and I think that when he arrived here, he arrived here as a really mature player, and one that is really hungry. I think he fits the rest of our team too, because I think we got a lot of hungry guys that are eager to prove. But he definitely does. His preparation, he's prepared with a chip on his shoulder, and I like where he's at mentally and physically heading into this opener.
So let's say an offense takes the personality of the quarterback. Is that the personality you want a quarterback rather than say like Scott Howard had, where he was going 100 miles an hour?
I think that's probably a question to ask Graham. I think a lot of times the personality of the offense is the personality of the person leading it. So I think there's definitely when I watch other guys play, there's some things that I see in Graham that I think transfers down to our unit there. I think that your strengths on your offense come down to what your quarterback can and can't do. I would agree with that. I do think that the quarterback's looked at, probably a little bit different from his teammates and obviously from you all as well, but they're looking at how the quarterback reacts, and I do like the steadiness of JT in the hot when he has really good plays and when something doesn't go the way we want it to offensively. I think how he reacts sets the tone or the standard for the rest of the group.
Outside of quarterback, you have a number of positions listed with or, and again, outside punter too. Do you anticipate sort of a 50-50 split there? Or
So, I think that if you're looking at them, I think, I like I said, I expect to play 7 up front. I think that's, I've been pretty consistent with that. I think we'll play in the 5 to 6 range at receiver. There's 3 running backs that are going to play. There's 3 tight ends that are going to play up front. Along the 3 defensive line positions, we expect to play 8 to 10 in that round. Linebacker will play 4. Spear, we're going to play 2. There'll be 3, maybe 4 corners that play 3, maybe 4 safeties, you know, so we're going to play a good number of people. You know, some of this is you know, as far as who's going to start on the offensive line, it's going to kind of go down to game day. Who's going to be the starting punter? You know, that's going to kind of go down to game day. So some of these battles haven't necessarily been decided, but who's going to play has, if that makes sense.
Coach, was there a sense of a little bit more of an urgency as in terms of determining who your starter quarterback was this year as opposed to a previous year, considering, you know, you're playing a big team Pitt as opposed to Townsend, an FCS opponent?
We tried to make it on the same kind of time scale, really. Try to get through 2 scrimmages, 2 weeks. You know, I think that's pretty fair determination. So not any different than any other opener we've had.
And you talk about Sam James in the return game. Obviously, that's another one there that was kind of going down the wire, I think, right?
Yeah, he's gonna he'll be a factor there. You know, I think he'll. I'm not saying he's gonna take all of them, but he's gonna get some opportunities. You know, a lot of it will depend on how the game's going. But he's had success there. If you remember back in 19, on the kickoff return, he had some nice ones. I thought he was really solid in the whole game against Minnesota, catching punts. So he's going to get some opportunities in both those.
Malinger, what do you like about him as a kick returner? Courage?
Well, he's fast. He's really fast. He played wideout in high school. Yeah, he definitely has courage. You know, he's not a guy that's intimidated by any means by the situation. And he's a good blocker, which is important back there when you have 2.
With a game like this is an opener, how much time do you spend on in your mind during the week on your pregame speech to your team and
Well, the good thing about this one, Bob, they don't need a whole lot of speeches. They'll be ready to go. So you worry the ones where you really put some thought into your speeches are the ones where you're worried about your emotional level going into it. And you know, the key here, this is going to be a game that obviously it's your opener, which is always high energy anyway. But the fact that you put in a rivalry game makes it even more emotional. You know, so it's going to be about making sure we play the game with emotion, but not necessarily emotional. And so that's probably the bigger challenge, and rather than getting them up during pregame.
From what you've seen, their defensive numbers against the run are really good the last 3 years. Is that a product too of the sacks that they get?
No, I think that, and I don't want to speak for them by any means, but that's what they're setting out to do defensively. I mean, they want to limit your ability to run the football, and then try to make you one-dimensional. You know, that's kind of what I was saying in the opening. I think that defensively, that's been the staple of the program, and I think within that is one of the top priorities for them is stopping the run, and they've done a really good job.
You said 3 running backs you see getting carries this week. There's only 2 listed on the depth chart.
Yeah, and C.J. Donaldson is a kid that we're gonna work to get involved.
You know, you said you wanted to play with emotion, not emotional. How do you kind of go about trying to make sure that happens? It seems like a pretty tough job, right?
It is, and especially in a rivalry type game. And so you lean on, you know, we've got a bunch of guys that play football. You know, not all of them have played necessarily at WVU, but we've got guys that play. Look across the offensive line, at wideout, you know, quarterback, tight end. I mean, you look at it across the board. Like, we've got guys outside of a couple guys on defense that have played. You know, so your expectation as a coach is that if guys have played, they're going to have a maturity level to understand, you know, to not get too high going into a contest.
Heard this from coaches that have been coaching this game before, that it's not really the great plays that win this game, but it's eliminating the bad plays. Do you buy that?
Well, I think that's a staple of openers. You know, anybody that watched college football last week, you know, even the games that were close to being evenly contested from a talent standpoint, it wasn't necessarily the big plays that won. It was the teams that didn't make the big mistakes. You know, whether it's penalties, turnovers. You know, you've heard me say this, so I don't don't want to repeat the same thing all the time, but like in college football, it's so hard in your opener because you don't have, this is the first time you're in line to play anybody since your bowl game. And so that makes it really difficult. But I do think teams lose games rather than win them early.
Injuries, anything problematic coming out?
No, not necessarily problematic. We got a couple guys that are questionable heading into it that I'm not going to talk about, but you know, the guys that are on this sheet are going to allow to play. So nothing of major concern or nothing from a season standpoint.
To follow up with that, then O'Laughlin, you said he's gonna play.
He's going to play. Yep.
Determine how much he can go yet?
Yeah. So we have another harder practice today, a work day today, and we'll determine. But he will play.
You guys, even though, you know, Green was the backup last year, you still worked him in throughout the season, and I'm pretty sure every game. Is that something that you guys may plan to do, or is it different now with JT as your starter?
No, I think it's all going to be from a game by game standpoint. You know, I think that Garrett, we used Garrett. Garrett played in every game last year. Some he played more. There were stretches there, kind of right in the middle of the season, where he played quite a bit. You know, and he's a really good athlete. But I think going into each game is going to be a little bit different for him, and then kind of the flow of the game will determine that as well.
Relative to all we want to play, you mentioned depth at various positions, nice play, 4, 7, 8, a lot of those seconds that guys have to play. Are you mindful or you think you careful about when you put them in? You know, we have the script, put them in, maybe it's a bad moment, is it gonna be subjective?
Yeah, it will, Mike. So what we'll do is after today's practice, leading into the game, you know, we basically have a walkthrough on Tuesday, and then we'll run through on Wednesday, and then we'll kind of get our rotations in order. But no, that's accurate, especially on the defense side of the ball. Some of the guys that are 2s and 3s haven't played as much, but they're going to play in the game. We won't have them all out there together. You know, that's where it's kind of choreographed. Is making sure that if it is a guy that's playing for the first time or first time in this type of action, that we've got some veterans out there with them.
Probably a question for Graham, but I'll ask you too. Is scripting a big part of the plan starting out? You still do that?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, we'll still do that. Do it on both sides. Do it in special teams. You know, not as big a number as something we used to, but yeah, we still do it.
With Graham here, how different will your life be on the sidelines?
Different. You know, like I'll be a resource for him. You know, that's really what I've been working on all spring and fall camp. You know, did it for a long time. You know, going back to 2008, and so I want to be a resource for him. You know, but he'll call it, and if I feel strongly about something, I'll give him some ideas. But for the most part, I just want to be a resource and ask questions, and if he wants to ask me something, he can. And that's something we've been working on. You know, that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but chemistry on game day, when you have new staff members, you have to practice that because it's different. You know, and so we've been intentional about doing that in the spring and all during fall camp.
Obviously, circumstances can change this, but do you have an idea of who redshirts, who doesn't? You mentioned 4 guys last week.
Yeah, you know, the freshman O lineman, you know, more than likely. Everybody else, Greg, we're going to try to get ready to play, you know, special teams at a minimum, you know, and I think it's way too early to make those determinations, but really heading into it, outside of those offensive linemen, everybody else, we're going to try to give them an opportunity.
You know, kind of extending on Bob's question, just to step back a little bit, kind of liberate you more involved in, you know, game management decisions, clocks, timeouts, analytical stuff, special teams, defense.
Yeah.
You rehearsed all that stuff, you thought about that,
Yeah, we have. That's kind of what we, we had 2 scrimmages and kind of a mock game. And that's what I did during the spring game as well, is really kind of work. And a lot of it too is you go back and as a head coach, you kind of train yourself as well. You watch some games and, you know, even on Saturday, I was watching one game, I won't tell you which one, but I'm sitting there going, okay, this amount of time, this is what we got to do, this is how we got to use our timeouts. Because nobody thinks about it. You know, if you go, it's been, 9 months since we played. If you go 9 months without doing something, you're going to be a little rusty. And so there's some preparation there for the coaches, you know, for the head coach included, get ready for an opener. So I'm kind of jealous of the NFL guys. They get 3 preseason games. And if you screw up, nobody knows because nobody's really watching.
Okay, anything else?
All right, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.